Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'm Dr. Khalas. I'm the founder and author of Nitro Medicine, and it's of my team of doctors. One of them is Dr. Michael Hamlin. I published articles with him. He's from Harvard Medical School. I published 2 articles, 2014, combining stem cells, PRP, laser, nitric oxide, and antioxidants. So I consider myself one of the first who publishes multi-therapy or risk combinations of therapies, because we find the synergy between all those therapies. And I published another articles with him in 2016, which is Nitro Medicine, to manage chronic disease as a result of oxidative stress-related disease. So what is Nitro Medicine? Nitro Medicine is a new medical specialty that focuses on developing diagnostic and therapeutic protocols to enhance stem cell therapies and manage oxidative stress-related diseases, or manage oxidative stress-related disease by modulating nitroreduction-sensitive epigenetics and biochemical pathways. It's very important that when we develop protocols, the protocols has to be evidence-based medicine. What meaning evidence-based medicine? It means that the protocol has to be based on clinical trials, published clinical trials with same results. Protocols has to be, those therapies of those protocols, we need to know the mechanism of action. It's not enough to say, well, I treat the patient, it works. But how it works? Well, I don't know, it just works. I'm a doctor, I don't need to know how it works. That doesn't work. Because you'll be challenged by the FDA, you'll be challenged by, and most of the FDA are biologists and chemists. And they have this base medicine, means that you need to know it. Otherwise, it cannot be translated into evidence-based medicine. So, mechanism of action is very, very important. The other thing is that the protocol needs to be monitored by reliable, objective diagnostic testing. So you're not saying to the medical community, or especially the mainstream doctors, those geeks, that you would say, well, it works and the patient feels good, and I have like 1 or 2 cases and it's improving. No, they want objective testing. They want to see numbers in order for them to be satisfied. And so let's see, for example, how the mainstream doctors will accept integrative regenerative medicine protocol. It's a similar way that we accept aspirin in the mainstream medicine. How we accept aspirin? We know that aspirin works by decreasing inflammation. And how it decreases inflammation? It blocks the COX enzyme, right? And decreases the prostaglandins, and then that will lead to decreased inflammation. So we know that the mechanism of action, the mainstream doctor will say, okay, now I'll take aspirin and I will give it to the patient. But integrative regenerative medicine, up to now, we are shooting in the dark because we don't know the mechanism of action. And why we don't know the mechanism of action? Because we have a problem, or not a problem, but we can say redox metabolism, redox pathophysiology is not yet in the medical books. It's still buried in research. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to shine the light on redox metabolism, because we find out that all this chronic disease that you can see here that affect all the systems of the body, they are oxidative stress-related disease. And what's that mean? The common pathophysiology of all this chronic disease that affect the heart, the skin, the joints, rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, the brain, Alzheimer's, all of them, they have a common pathophysiology, which is abnormal redox metabolism. Let me repeat that. The common pathophysiology of all this chronic oxidative stress-related diseases affect all these organs and all the systems: chronic inflammation, chronic infectious diseases, autoimmune, degenerative diseases, metabolic diseases. All of them, they have a common pathophysiology, which is abnormal redox metabolism. Okay, so they have high pathological free radicals and all these conditions. So how we can manage these conditions? By restoring the redox metabolism back to normal. And if we do that, we can manage all these diseases. Dr. Farjan would say, I can manage all this disease by injecting exosomes, right? And that's true. And that's true. But then the FDA would say, how? Well, because exosome has trophic effect, has anti-inflammatory effect, right? And it can buffer the redox and restore nitrogen redox balance. And that's true, but they need more details. And then they ask you, what is redox potential? You say redox. What is redox? We never heard about redox. As a medical doctors, have you heard about redox in your medical school? Even if you hear it, I study medical. I didn't see any word of redox. I heard hydrogen potential. Right. Everybody knows hydrogen potential, right? So what is hydrogen potential? Hydrogen potential is the affinity of the substance to attract protons. And we know that the pH in the body has to be what? Around 7.35, 7.45, right? And your body is very good in keeping that pH, because any drafting in the pH, what will happen? You will have cardiac arrhythmia, cardiac arrest, convulsion, confusion, and death. So all your enzymes are pH sensitive, right? And they can denaturate by changing this. So your body is strictly controlled. So the idea of alkaline, this old school alkaline thing, is not that much effective in managing chronic disease, right? Redox potential is really the factor, the pathophysiology of this diseases, and restoring it, normalizing it, we can manage it. So redox is more for chronic disease. So if any drafting in redox potential, what would happen? You would have abnormal immune, you would have all those cardiac rhythm, arrhythmia, all those physiology of your body is controlled by redox potential, and any shifting of this disease, all those chronic diseases that we have. So redox potential regulates your cell cycle, regulates your cardiac rhythm, regulates your circadian rhythm, your autonomic nervous balance, your brain neuroplasticity. So any shifting and redox, you would end up with this oxidative stress-related disease and this pathology that we are trying to manage. So that's the missing link, is the concept of redox potential that needs to be understood. Now, how much important is redox potential? It's so important. I believe it is the holy grail of the holy grail. Dr. Furey is here? No. So he likes to use the holy grail, right? Nitric oxide is the holy grail. Well, there's something that's more even holy grail, which is the redox potential. Why? Because the cells of your body, what is the redox potential of your cell of your body? Of course, we did not learn this in medical school, right? Redox potential is between minus 400 to minus 170. That's the redox potential of normal cells, we can say, right? If the redox potential goes above minus 170, the cell will die. It will induce apoptosis and it will die. If it goes above minus 140, what would happen? You would have necrosis, right? So the cell, when they're not dividing, you remember that cell cycle before G0, S1, S2, and all those kinases and phosphatases in medical school? That's an old school, okay? Phosphatase and kinases are redox-sensitive enzymes controlled by the redox. So the real boss is the redox potential. Who's the controller, right? So when the cell is not dividing in the G0 phase, right, the redox potential is around 400 to 240. Now, if we increase the redox potential above 240, then you are trigger the cell to divide, proliferate, right? If it goes into 220, it stops dividing, quiescent phase, and then if you go above 220, right, it will differentiate, right? Alright, so above 240, proliferation, then above 220, quiescent, and then above 200 will be what? Differentiation, and then if you go above 170, what will happen? Induced apoptosis, you kill the cell, and then if above 140, it's necrosis. This is the holy grail. This gives us an understanding of how all this integrative medicine and regenerative medicine work. We just heard that the microcurrent therapy, right? It works, but if you ask them how, well, we don't know. Well, here you know, right? Microcurrents change the redox potential, buffer the redox. In a way, it will stimulate the expression of the genes and stimulate the stem to proliferate. It helps to buffer redox to the level of 240 to 200. That's the buffer that you need for the cells to divide and proliferate and differentiate and express their genes. So those electrons that you are delivering in microcurrent it buffers those redox, right? Those free radicals will be neutralized. If you have high inflammation, they have high pathological free radicals, you give them electrons, they buffer, you drop them, you actually, what will happen, you reduce them back down to the level of the redox potential that you need for cell to express their protein and to proliferate and differentiate. Now, I think this is a new concept, and I think it takes time for you to process it. I know it's not an easy thing. We need time. So I'll try to, all we need to break it down to more simple facts so that we can understand and digest it. What would happen when you're exercising to your muscles? Hypertrophy, right? So what exactly you're doing, you're increasing the physiological free radicals, and that stress the healthy tissue, your muscles, to express protein, and then the muscle grows, right? So it's all redox here, right? What will happen when the astronaut return back from the moon when there's no gravity? What will happen to their muscles and bones? Wasting, because they don't have stress. So ROS, which is the reactive oxygen species, is not bad all the time, right? So we need the physiological free radicals, right, to stimulate the stem cells, to keep us healthy, right? But when it goes high, pathological level, then it kills the cells, right? So there's good roses and there's bad roses, and we all the time we want to buffer it to the good roses, right? So, and the inflammation is high, we want to turn back. Lifestyle, the lazy one, where you don't have much of free radical to initiate, trigger your stem cells, what will lead to atrophy, right? That what's happening to us as a medical doctor sitting in a chair 24 hours? Okay. So, then, all the therapies out there, name it, photomedicine, how photomedicine works, it buffers the redox, right? It excites the electrons, and then this electrons helps to neutralize the free radicals and buffer the redox. That's how they stimulate the stem cells. And yes, the photomedicine does increase the ATP. And we're going to see the mechanism in the coming slide. Electrotherapy, sonotherapy, name it. All of them, they work by buffering the redox. Now, when I'm going to kill cancer, what I will do when I kill cancer? I increase the free radicals very high to induce apoptosis in the cancer, right? So how I can do it? Photodynamic therapy. I give them photosensitizers to stimulate the cancer, shine them with light. What will happen? You generate free radicals, right? Those electrons will be excited, and that will kill the cancer because you are going up to 170, you kill the cancer. All radiotherapy, chemotherapy, name it. They work by redox, by increasing the free radicals in those cancers, right? Cells, and that's how we kill them. Okay. Now, we mentioned that photomedicine buffer the redox. So if we shine the light in the healthy tissue, not pathological tissue, in the healthy tissue, what will happen? Your mitochondria will take those light, right, the cytochrome, excite the electrons, right, and then what will happen? Those electrons will be picked up by the oxygen, turn the free radicals, that will shift the redox into oxidation, right? And when you strip the redox to oxidation, physiological one, you stress the healthy tissue to express their protein, to generate ATP, to grow your muscles, right? To heal, to ozone, all those therapies that they help to buffer the redox. If it's low, it brings it up, and if it's high, it brings it low, right? For healthy tissue, we want to increase the free radical. We want to shift it to the oxidation, so we can stress them so they can generate antioxidant, anti-inflammatory factors, and growth factors, right? And express those proteins. Here we go. All right? And you generate ATP at the same time when you are freeing those electrons from the cytochrome. Okay. Now, what will happen when you shine the light into pathological tissue, oxidative stress tissue, or hypoxia? Those electrons will be excited, but they won't go to the oxygen. There will be something called reverse electron transport chain. It goes to the opposite side. And they'll be picked up by NAD because you have too much of NAD, turns into NADH, and then NADH will reduce the glutathione, turns into reduced glutathione. That's why the doctor who said, microcurrent is good to add glutathione, right? Because this electrons helps to reduce the free radicals, and then NAD, and then NAD turns into NADH, and NADH will reduce the glutathione, and glutathione will neutralize the free radicals, right? And that helps to decrease the inflammation. Okay, here we go. Shift to reduction. So buffering the redox. Everybody knows about buffering the pH. Now there's a new concept here. It's called buffering the redox. All right, blue light mechanism, how it works. Blue light in the blood. I'm not talking about in the lab. Lab is different. There's no blood in the lab, so maybe you get different results. That's why not necessarily what you do in the lab can be translated into humans, right? Because there are different factors there involved. In the blood, the blue light releases what? Nitric oxide from the hemoglobin, right? And then nitric oxide will react with the free radicals and turn into peroxynitrate. And then your hemoglobin, they have peroxyredoxine, which is a thiol, and they will take the peroxynitrate back to nitric oxide and water. The ultimate thing you did is shifting the reduction to reduction, right? Because you're clearing up the free radicals by this cycle of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide reacts with the free radicals, turn into peroxynitrate, and then your hemoglobin has peroxyreductins, or your blood vessels have reduction, and they will turn the peroxynitrate back to nitric oxide and water. So the ultimate result here is shifting the redox to reduction, which is very important as an anti-inflammatory. You decrease and you shift the reduction to reduction, and you decrease it from your free radicals. What will happen here to the immune system or the inflammation? It decreases, right? Redox is very important in polarization of your immune cells. Do you remember Dr. Goulet yesterday? He's talking about M1, M2, and the mesenchymal stem cells 1 and 2, and Th1 and 2. Who is responsible for polarization here? It's the redox. High pathological free radicals shift your M into what? Into M1. Shift your mesenchymal stem cells into 1, right? And Th, the lymphocytes into 1, shifting, which is pro-inflammatory cytokines, right? You remember that? They say, well, in the obese patient, their stem cells are not that good because they are mesenchymal stem 1, right? Versus the thin, the healthy, their mesenchymal cells is 2. They secrete anti-inflammatory cytokines. So redox control the polarization of your immune system, right? Here. All right, so what we do with this, we also, I'm involved with, in Germany, I have a clinic there, and I'm helping them to develop products of laser and specifications and photodynamic therapy. So I developed what we call the indocyanine green nanoparticles as the photosensitizers to treat cancer. Very successful. All those photosensitizers that we have is visible light photosensitizers. The light does not go deep. So it's only good for surface cancer, it's not good for deep cancers. So I find the research on rats about ICG, using it as for dynamic therapy because they absorb infrared, so you can go deeper, right? So you can treat metastasis. And I reach out to Dr. Weber and say, hey, let's do this. Let's do ICG. ICG is FDA approved. We just add the nanoparticle in it, and we can concentrate on the cancer. So he said, yes, let's do it, right? So I have a compounding pharmacy who works on it, and then we send it to Germany, and of course you can't do it here in the United States, right? In Germany, in 3 weeks, it's on patient, right? And almost 3 months, we have almost like 1,000 doctors are using ICG. It's hard to get them here in the United States, but I have a compounding pharmacy here, Dr. Beamer. He's going to develop it in a compounding pharmacy arena. There's a protocol for the compounding pharmacy to mix things and develop ICG nanoparticles. So hopefully he will develop it when he has his IV running. So we use the photosensitizer, inject in the body, they concentrate in the cancer, we shine the light, they generate free radicals, they increase the redox potential above 170, remember that? And then induce apoptosis and kill the cancer. But not just that. We're using ICG nanoparticles for diagnosing cancer as well, right? Because what will happen, those cancers, we pick them up, right? Just take those because they're nanosized. And then we shine the light, we call it excitation because they're fluorescent. And then we have a spectrophotometer and we can measure, we can detect the same like we detected the stars by laser and by emission excitation. I'm picking up those and define those stars. The same thing we're doing with cancer, right? We have very good success. We have a system in Germany that we developed to detect cancer. That's the most sensitive, more sensitive than MRI and CT scan and all those systems out there. We're using spectrophotometry. Now, in Germany, what happened? how I can get this video here? How I can get this video here?
He's gonna play it for you.
Play. How I can do that?
Go back to the page.
He's gonna play it for you from up there.
Yeah, go back to the page
Uh-huh.
Is
and
there a video
ask.
on this page that you wanted to?
No, I want this one.
There you
Oh.
go. Just stay on that page and he'll get it for you. Oh, the gentleman.
Okay. Where's that? It's working. No, it's not working. Ah. I don't know if it's a video that I know, but anyway. But anyway, this is in Germany. What happened is that I took
There you go.
There you go, it's working.
So there's no voice, right? Which is okay. So we're injecting methylene blue, and we're injecting ICG, and we're injecting curcumin inside this patient, which happens to be my dad. That's why I'm recording and publishing. He has squamous cell carcinoma of his hypopharyngea. And when doing it, this one we did it with anesthesia. But we have some slides without anesthesia, because Dr. Weber is very good in his hands. And we're able to inject the throat without anesthesia, going all the way with this photosensitizers, 3 of them, curcumin, ICG, and methylene blue. And then I was able to put the fiber optic, as you see here, on his nose, to his throat, shining it, and activate the curcumin, the methylene blue, and the ICG. I use red, infrared, and blue light, right? And yes, we have significant improvement. My dad stopped swallowing, the swallowing is improved, and all that stuff. But you need to continue non-stop. So when you return back to Libya, relapse. So now I send them to Egypt for radiotherapy. Then we're going back to Germany. We're going to do photodynamic therapy as well. So I'm not that savvy integrative doctor, regenerative doctor here. I combine the mainstream with integrative doctors. I'm not saying, well, 7 years is a waste of time, or those mainstream doctors in protocol is wrong. No, it's not. Okay, so don't be in that extreme edges. Either way. All right. So not just that, we can do methylene blue to treat chronic infection, leishmania, for example, right? This patient with leishmania, and we put the methylene blue there. The methylene blue is the only molecule that I know attracts to inflammation in cancer. And there's no other molecule out there, any photosensitizers, anything that has natural attractions to area with high free radicals, which is inflammation in cancer. They stick with it, right? And then when you shine them with light, 660 nanometer of red light, right? You generate free radicals and kill the leishmania here. And it's very cost effective, especially for African countries. They can't afford those big toxic chemicals that we're using for treating leishmania. So this is the easy way. And I don't do things out of the blue. I see publication, people are doing the same thing, and then I modify. I do nanoparticle, nanomedicine, very important, nanomedicine, the future of medicine. All your chemotherapy in the future is going to turn into nanomedicine and nanoparticle. All right, squamous cell carcinoma. Methylene blue sticks into the cancer like crazy, stain it, right? And then you generate, you radiate with red light, 660, and squamous cell carcinoma is gone. What will happen in mainstream doctors? How they treat the basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma? And they end up what? Removing all the skin, and it takes time for them, they need even skin graft and all that, painful procedures. You don't need that anymore, right? This is the future of medicine. This is how we say we are frontier of medicine, right? We are leading the medicine. We may be people of what we call them, those people who are moving teleportation, people coming from 2015 and 3000, like Dr. Farshad, I think he came from the year of 3000. And then when you don't see him, that means he's back to 3,000 years, bringing the science and then that's there. So anyway, space traveling, right? Did you watch Speed?
Time travel.
Yeah, Dr. Farshad is one of the Speed family. All right.
Hallis.
So-
Dr. Hallis,
Yeah.
that person was locally injected?
Yeah, we injected his throat with endoscopy into his throat, which is very difficult to do without anesthesia. but the skills of Dr. Weber, and we worked together on that, and we're able to inject it with you have gag reflex there, right? And we inject it into the throat, yes, and then we put the laser fiber optic through the nose, get it there, and radiate it. But we can't do fiber optic in the mouth, gag reflex, but you can go with intranasal. That's why intranasal endoscopy is the future. All this oral endoscopy, they're gonna throw them in the trash. And nasal is the best, because you don't need anesthesia, you can do it in office, and you can do all your procedure with intranasal endoscopy.
Good question.
Uh-huh.
When you say photodynamic therapy, what actually is that? That's infrared or?
Photodynamic therapy means that you inject the photosensitizer in the body, they accumulate in the cancer, right? And then you shine the light. Those photosensitizers, they start having this exciting electrons. They'll be picked up by the oxygen, generate free radicals, increase the inductive potential to above 170, and reduce apoptosis and kill the cell. This is
Infrared or what's?
so it depends on photosensitizers. If they can absorb infrared, you use infrared. Like methylene blue, they absorb the red light, so you use red. So specifically for those photosensitizers, right? So if you have surface cancer, or not that deep, 2-3 centimeter cancer, use methylene blue. But if you metastasis is deep, you have to go with infrared ICG. Okay. Exosomes, let's talk about exosomes. Dr. Flarzan likes exosome. It's 40 to 100 nanometer vesicles that are released from many cell types into extracellular space, contain what RNAs. What the RNAs express, is it 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay, within this, and then we're done. And then those good RNAs, which can be taken by neighbor cells, right? We call paracrine and all that stuff, or distant cells, endocrine, subsequently modulate recipient cells. This is just the definition of exosomes. Can be extracted from amniotic fluid, bone marrow. Yes, so bone marrow fast stem cells. In the future, your autologous stem cells, we can extract the exosome from it, inject it into the body. We did not do it yet. I'm working on developing the kits. Nobody has it yet, but that's my plan. So you can get exosome from the fluid, but you can also do it from your autologous stem cells, because exosome is better when injected into the blood versus stem cells. Stem cells sticks with each other, you don't want that, and they can get just certain way. Talking about stem cells. Can serve as a carrier for other molecules, such as photosensitizers, so I can use it and load it with photosensitizers and inject it, concentrating the cancer and photodynamics. So it's a good delivery mechanism. Instead of using PLGA and all those liposomes, I can use exosomes here. Okay. So my exosomes, what we use it for, orthobiological clinical application, use photomodulated leukocyte-rich PRP. You don't need to use stem cells or exosome and muscular skeleton. Just use leukocyte-rich PRP, activate with light, apply nitrogen compounding, or Dr. Pireti has a patch, the same concept to perfect the microenvironment, the large microenvironment. Cosmetic procedures use photoactivated fat, micro, and nanography. That's the best thing, okay? Now, managing systemic oxidative stress diseases, which include neurodegenerative, autoimmune, when it's systemic, yeah, then you go ahead with injecting exosomes. I prefer first degree, second degree exosomes. That's me, my cousins, my nieces, my grandchildren exosomes, just for peace of mind. I just know them, and infections, they're not messed up, I don't messed up, so I like that, okay? Okay, so we can also exosome recover from killer T cells and strong efficacy against melanoma. So we can extract it from white blood cells and treat cancer. Now, I think all of you, this is new and it's very thing. I'd like to have Dr. Mike Bomer, he's a pharmacist here. He translates all this types of medicine into formulations. So I want you as a pharmacist to come here and tell us what you understand and how this will benefit the pharmacy industry.
Hi, my name is Mike Bamer. I appreciate you listening. Let me have the, how do you move it forward? Oh, there you go.
Where's yours?
That's it.
That's it? Okay. So go ahead and have that.
We'll get it back up. One of the things I wanted to mention is that with all this wonderful science that we see being brought forward by Dr. Vlasa, you have to be able to translate that into an actual therapy that you can prescribe or that you can use, that you have availability to. And disappeared. But what we wanted to say is that I am Director of Research and Development for a large compounding pharmacy, and we work together as consultants to develop these new therapies. And, oh, thank you. Appreciate that. All right.
He's gonna go to the.
Jumping around.
Oh, I have it here, right?
All right, we got it.
All right, got it.
There we go. All right. Mike Bamer is my name, sir. Yes, what we wanted to talk about a little bit was how do these therapies get translated into something that you can actually use? And so new and existing topical therapies will certainly benefit from these vehicles that can be designed based on these sciences. And I know we've seen several different instances where this could be done either intravenously, it can be done orally, it can be done topically when you're administering redox balancing elements that kind of are based on this research. So Dr. Olasa, I think, had what really kind of made me as a pharmacist understand the redox balancing is that we have two basic chemical reactions that we deal with in research and development all the time: acid-base reactions and oxidative reductive reactions. And what really struck home to me, as in all the pharmacotherapies that we design, we end up dealing with both of those problems in product stability, but also in the bioavailability and the actual actions of the drugs themselves. And what I didn't understand is how tightly the body controls pH, yet doesn't have very tight control over the redox, because it's dietary, there's so many factors that influence it. And so when I became aware of that through Dr. Halasa's work with me, that's kind of helped us. So we've been able to take these elements and incorporate them into a compounding vehicle that can be used by any compounding pharmacy very easily. But if they have to use each individual ingredient at the compounding pharmacy, they can't get them, they can't source them, they don't have them, they don't know how to work with them. So this has all been done, then put it into a CGMP produced vehicle. And to make them available on the market, we went, instead of to a vendor or somebody like that, we went directly to a manufacturer, went to the guy who is more or less the pioneer of designing liposomal topical vehicles, and consulted with him. So what you have in nitromedicine vehicles is a collaboration, I guess, between Dr. John Park, kind of the pharmaceutics professor who has designed a lot of the topical drugs delivery systems for big pharma, for everybody. So we've used him to go ahead and do that, and then also incorporate all the nitro redox balancing research-based, I guess you would say, therapies included together. So what we've done with that, of course, we don't want to put that out, let people use that en masse until we've tested it. So we have to have a large compounding pharmacy. We've used this now nationwide, 44 states, in dermatology and hormone replacement therapy and in pain management therapy. So we've had very, very good drug delivery and also added the redox balancing effects. But these are available to any compounding pharmacy. You can work with ours, you can work with your own, and it really doesn't matter. We'd be happy to teach them, to help them. This is not something we're trying to hold on to. We just want to make sure that the word gets out of how to do it, and also that educates pharmacists that can help other physicians understand this as well. So yeah, that's what we wanted to let you know about today, so thank you.
Will that incorporate protocols?
Yes. Oh, and to answer your question before about the nanometers of light, what it is as an intrinsic property of each photosensitizer. So each photosensitizer has an intrinsic wavelength of light that stimulates it. So with methylene blue, there was a certain one, but it may be different for indocyanine green or something like that.
So
It's
can you tell
intrinsic
about
property.
the story of the doctor who used, the guy who was doing the stamps here?
Yeah.
That's a very interesting thing.
Oh, the methylene blue?
Yeah, methylene blue, yeah.
Okay, yeah, what we found out, this is an interesting story. I have a long-time relationship with many dermatologists who I consult with. One is a major Mohs surgeon, and he had patients coming to his office that would have a blue stain on the top of their head. And he couldn't understand why it was that all the AKs on the top of their head were lit up. So he would see a patient, identify a basal cell or something, get a confirmation, come in to do Mohs surgery for the patient, and then when the patient would come in, all these other AKs and subtherapeutic lesions were visible, and he couldn't understand what was happening. And it turned out it was people dyeing their hair. Like men that had white hair, they kind of put a silvery sheen kind of a product in there. Well, it turned out, we didn't know this at the time, but it contained methylene blue. So the methylene blue that this people were putting on the top of their head were staining their AKs. We didn't know what this was. So for years, he asked me to find out what this was, because I'd like to use this. I'd like to use it as an indicator. Well, I didn't understand what it was until I met Dr. Halas, so we started talking about all of this. But so now this physician is very, very interested in bringing this to the dermatology world as a Mohs surgeon because, well, it would reduce the number of Mohs surgeries you do, but that's the whole goal, right? Because who wants to do these operations if you don't need to have your patient do it? Obviously, there's invasive cancers, things of this nature have to be done that way. But if you get a lot of the simple stuff done with light therapy, it's not really pharmacotherapy, there's nothing dangerous involved, methylene blue is not toxic topically. So, and it's very affordable. I think even the patients could do it at home. I think there will be a possibility for patients to even do this at home at a reasonable price. So this is just kind of the process that we're trying to use to bring scientific therapies into reality that you can use on a nationwide basis for all physicians. So that's nitromedicine.
Quick question, does, this method, does it increase the cost of your product?
Very, very good question. That is why, after 35 years in this business developing products, that's one thing I've learned. Go directly to the manufacturer, cut out all the middlemen, and in this case, every compounding pharmacy in America can buy direct from the CGMP US-based manufacturer at a very reasonable cost.
He's asking about if you use methylene blue versus the other drug that you use for the dynamic, which
Oh.
is cheaper.
No,
Okay,
I'm
like-
asking the cost of the oxidative redox technology vehicle.
Yes.
Right.
Does it add cost to your product?
No.
It's more
No.
cheaper, and
It's-
it's like
yes.
methylene blue can be replaced the other drug. What's the name of it?
Well, what you're asking is the compound that my patient would get, would it cost a lot of money? The answer is no. $59 to $99 for decent supply. So no, that's why we've done it this way. The compounding vehicle incorporates all of these technologies at a very similar or less than what most pharmacies are paying, because they're getting these huge markups through these vendors. They're selling them more or less an inert vehicle. So when you prescribe A, B, and C prescription, the pharmacy chooses the vehicle every time. You don't really specify that. And this gives the pharmacy the opportunity to incorporate these other modalities into a vehicle rather than having an inert vehicle.
So you buy the vehicle, you don't
We
compound
don't.
the vehicle?
Correct. That's the problem, because it wouldn't be very compoundable because of all the unusual, more or less, I guess you'd call them nutraceuticals, things like tetrahydrocurcuminoids. That's not for sale from Bagron or from somebody where a pharmacy would know to buy it. The other thing is most pharmacies, compounding pharmacies, don't have their own internal research and development. So they rely on their vendors to give them the ideas. And of course, the vendors are giving the ideas that are beneficial to the vendors because they sell you this stuff. So until you get free of that, you have your own R&D, you're really not free to be science-based, evidence-based medicine because you're kind of dependent upon, other people to do it. But yes, this can all be done very cost effectively, but you kind of have to go directly to the manufacturer. But then you have a CGMP product. You can use this product, buy it, you could personally buy it in your office and use it as it is. Or you could incorporate your own things into it and use it. So it can be used by anyone.
Can you use these complex to deliver the hormones?
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
then the side effect of the hormones, you can directly.
I'll tell you what, yes, and you can lower dosages by about 40% by using it because it stimulates nitric oxide in the local region of application. So when the patient uses the cream, say on the inside of the thigh or wherever it is you like to put it, you're balancing the redox in there on a daily basis through the vehicle, and you get better absorption. We found by about 40%. So you have to reduce dosages. So there is a conversion there, but it's a positive conversion because now you're getting the same therapeutic effect with a lower dose.
What about with the progesterone? Can you take it orally? Or?
Yes, absolutely, and I prefer that. Yes, so with HRT personally, I think people get the best results in the A4M world with maybe, you could do the estrogens any way you want, but the progesterone orally, I think is better. Thank you, sir.
Do you have a site?
Thank you.